Welcome back to RobMotive. Out here cruising around in the 96-degree heat down here in South Texas in my Toyota Tacoma. And I got to thinking, you know, I've had almost every version of the Tacoma you can get, except for the SR, the Limited, and the TRD Pro. I've had every other trim level, and I've had multiples of every other trim level, I think, including the access cab, which I really love the look of the access cab, but functionally, not so much. You know, those side opening doors, they're okay, but kind of a pain when you just want to open the back door. And then the kind of suicide type seats that sit on the edges facing side to side, not very comfortable either, like sitting on flat boards. But anyway, by now, I have certainly been able to determine, at least for me, which is the best trim or the best model of the Toyota Tacoma. And I know some people are going to disagree, and that's okay. We all like our own thing, right? Which is a good reason why Toyota has many different models, because they too know that we all don't think the same. But for me, I used to think it was the SR5. I had mentioned that on the channel. When I got the SR5, I thought, you know, this is the perfect setup for me, for a modder, because it's fairly basic and I don't waste my money by paying for things that I'm going to take off to replace for other things. And that's the one caveat to this video, I think, that's true. You know, if you're a big-time modder, you're going to change the suspension and change all kinds of things that, in essence, you've paid for. Probably the SR5 is the best trim level for that, or even the SR. But for me, the best one that I've had, and there's one little but in there, but the best one that I've had is the TRD Off-Road for a few reasons. One, its setup, its suspension setup. You know, it's a little bit softer than the Sport, which it should be. I mean, they call the Sport the TRD Sport because you also get a sportier ride. It's not only the appearance, and really the only difference in appearance of the Sport is a little bit of stuff on the inside maybe, and the hood scoop. Nah, the decals on the side too. I mean, they say TRD Sport, right? But I take those off anyway, so that's something I pay for that I just remove. But it's really the hood scoop. That's really what gives you the sport look, if you will, for all intents and purposes from the outside. Now, I say it's a softer ride, that's for sure. I noticed that a few years ago when I had the Barcelona Red. I think it was a 2018 Sport. And I noticed right away that the ride quality was a little bit harsher, if you will. It's because of a bit tighter suspension. They do have different suspensions on them, different shocks, if you will. And the off-road gives me what I really like. Again, personal preference. If you're the kind of person that likes to bang over the bumps on the road and feel everything like a sportier drive, then it would make sense to me that you would like the Sport better. But for me, the off-road just kind of has more cushioning to it, I guess. When I go over bumps and divots and things in the road, it's dampened, I guess, a little bit more. I don't feel them as much. And I can imagine off-road, it probably makes a huge difference when you're driving the off-road version versus the Sport. Now, the perfect truck for me, if I'm being honest, and I always try to be honest, is an off-road with a Sport hood. Of course, Toyota's not going to do that because that's really what differentiates the Sport from the off-road, really. So they're never going to do that. Now, you can get a Sport hood, and I would imagine if you buy an OEM hood, it's going to cost you a fortune, like all the rest of the parts on the Tacoma do cost, that is. There are aftermarket options, but I've never seen anything in the aftermarket world in the way of a hood scoop type setup for the Tacoma that I really care for. They always look aftermarket. And I think in every case, I could be wrong, but I think in every case, the aftermarket options are all plastic or fiberglass. And I'm not sure about the quality of them either. From pictures and things that I've seen, they really don't look all that great. And of course, then you have to screw around getting it painted, trying to match it up. Could you imagine? There'd be nothing worse than having an aftermarket hood, a sport type hood that looks really great on the truck from a design and engineering standpoint, but the paint job is off, so it's obvious that it never should have been on that truck. It doesn't match up, and that's hard to do. I think your best bet is probably to take it to a Toyota body shop themselves, whoever they use. I don't think they really do any body work anymore themselves, but whatever shop they use, so that they have the right recipe for the paint, makes a huge difference. I've done some paint work myself, little things in the past, and you never get it to match perfectly, realizing of course that I'm not a professional painter. So for me, it's got to be the off-road, and that's why I'm looking at the new Toyota Tacoma, a model level, at least to start off. It doesn't mean that I won't switch out down the road just to test things out for myself and see if they're different with other trim levels. But for me, I'm going to start off, I think, with the TRD off-road. There are a couple that I really like, maybe even a little bit more. You know, that Trail Hunter, that's a pretty cool looking truck, and it's really probably only because of the sport bar that they have on it, but there's some other things that I like. And then of course the TRD Pro. I mean, who doesn't like the TRD Pro? The problem with the TRD Pro, like I mentioned in the beginning with the SR5 example, is that it's a finished truck. I mean, if I were to get the TRD Pro, and I've mentioned this before, what would I do with it? Just drive it around? No. Now, speaking of mods, which maybe we weren't, but I'm gonna now, I do have a couple of things coming for this truck. One should be here in just a few days, and the next one I'm still trying to make my mind up on. You know, I put a video out not long ago about my decision when I'm going to get the 2024, and that's going to be delayed really because of Toyota, what Toyota is offering or how they're offering it. You are not going to be able to put your hands on the hybrid version until hopefully mid-2024. I'm also hearing late 2024. Who knows? And that's barring any delays or anything. You know, I've got a car on order right now with Toyota, supposedly already in the build phase, and it's been 5 weeks coming up on now, and it still says in the build process. Now, I know it doesn't take 5 weeks to build a car, so I don't know if it really wasn't in the schedule. Their information from their site is not accurate. I don't know. I even used another website to kind of verify what Toyota is saying, and it says the same thing. Although I don't know that I believe that that website is perfectly up to date or in sync with Toyota, because they do have to make public the status of a car before this site can update, but still, it's close enough. Anyway, that's my preference. The Toyota Tacoma TRD off-road. I think it's the best trim level, gives you the most options that you can get with the least options that you have to take off if you want to do something else. Leave a comment. Let me know if you agree, particularly if you've had the other trim levels yourself, including the Sport. I'd be curious to know. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.